Hey, welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we have talked about recurring revenue in a lot of different contexts.
We have.
Over the last year. We talked about it when we hosted the TEConnect live shows.
We did.
Pretty popular topic.
Yes.
One that should make a lot of sense to our viewers, our listeners, our audience, our channel.
Yes,
and
you
yet,
would think.
At the same time, I feel like some people don't necessarily get on board with that.
They haven't been listening?
No.
You know,
so
hey, somebody's at the door. It's called recurring revenue. And anyway.
You better let them in. All right, so that is going to be our topic today. It's another Dean and John special. We're again cribbing an article from the TEConnect Today newsletter. We're going to dive a little deeper into this concept of how to build more and better recurring revenue for your business. So we're going to get into the difference between one-time recurring sales, what that means to you and your business and to your customers, other sources of recurring revenue maybe you don't necessarily think about. And as always, we're going to do our value to the VAR, tell you a little bit maybe about how BlueStar can help you out in this, as well as the usual what's TEConnecting with us. So it's time for us to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, so Dean, again, recurring revenue is one of those things we love to hear about. I remember when we were hosting TEConnect Live last year, a couple episodes, whenever a software company would say, hey, we've got a recurring revenue platform where you can make money over a string of time, we always got excited about that. We always shouted that out and called it out as a good thing.
Right, yeah.
And again, like I said, this is one of our articles from our TEConnect Today newsletter. I will, again, put the link in the show notes to subscribe. If you haven't already, you definitely should. You're going to find all kinds of cool articles like this, and occasionally we'll do some deeper dives into it, but there's lots of great stuff that our friends over at DevPro Journal have been putting together for us, so highly recommend that you check that out. So on this concept, Dean, I want maybe you can kick us off here and explain a little bit about what do you think of when you hear the term recurring revenue?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, obviously you're building or you're trying to build a business where you have revenues coming in that, are recurring. Right. So why is that such a revolutionary thought? It shouldn't be, because most resellers today don't work on that. Even today, even though we've been preaching it, I don't know what the statistics are, but I think, about a year and a half ago, it was still in the neighborhood of 60% of resellers do not have any kind of recurring revenue in their revenue stream. So they're the traditional model. And the traditional model is, I've got something to sell, I take it to the marketplace, I sell it, there's a one-time fee for that, boom, we're done, thank you so much, I'm moving on to the next one. As opposed to a recurring revenue model where, yes, I can go out there, sell the solution, but that solution now has a value over time, and there's recurring revenue that is coming in off of that. Now, when you think about the why, I guess, or so to me, that's what recurring revenue is, right? That's what you're trying to build. But we have to understand why some of this is going on in the marketplace too. And I'm going to throw a couple things out at you, John. And of course, we've talked about some of these already, but we talk about the societal changes. Why do resellers need to pivot to this? To my mind, if you haven't pivoted already, are you on the fence? Why is it? Why are you still on the fence? What do we need to do to convince you to get over there? Maybe these are some of the things that we can say that are going to convince you to get over there. Societal changes. The society is changing. There is an embracing of monthly cost.
It's a subscription world.
Subscription. Kind of bingo. Yes, subscription world, right? I mean, it's out there. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, not so much the case. Or maybe if you were, leasing things or paying for something monthly, it was just that. It was, I lease a car, but I would never think to lease my point of sale system, or I would never think to lease my mobile computer that's in the warehouse. Things are changing because society is changing and becoming a little bit more adaptable to that subscription-based model. We've talked a lot about how this pandemic has brought on the need for, those types of things. So you got societal changes going on out there. Number two, you got solution selling. How many times have we talked about solution selling?
It's the way to sell.
It's the way
There's
to
no
sell.
other way you should be selling right now.
Absolutely not. So if you're selling a solution, that's a tech stack. And usually in that tech stack, you're going to need some type of software and things like that. Now, just by nature of that part of it, you're getting into the whole recurring revenue or SaaS model. There's a wave out there. So those are some whys. When you think about it, other whys to throw on the table, you've got the accounting department that is finally embracing the OpEx over CapEx type of expenditure. You know, back in the old day, my dad was an accountant and he'd sit there and, you know, what's the capital expenditure? And he's got his little calculator going and stuff like that. And he can amortize it out over however many years for the company. Yeah, okay, all that still exists, but you've got accounting teams now that understand and are willing to pivot dollars towards OpEx. So you've got the money guys saying, hey, okay, yes. And finally, you've got technology advancements. As we've talked about, you've got technology is advancing so fast today, right? I mean, with implementing new solutions and stuff like that, you don't want to be left behind. That's one of the worst things about CapEx is that, and believe you me, I worked for a company that was part of their ownership was an aluminum extruding company. And you want to talk old school, a CapEx. I mean, it's like they would buy things and they would use them for 10 years. 15 years, 20 years. They're computers that they anyway. So that's not really the way the world operates today, or at least that's not the way solution selling is going, where you've got solutions, this is going to work today, but I can tell you in 3, 4, 5 years the technology is going to change a little bit. You want to be positioned well for that. Anyway, there are some whys. Why would you want to consider recurring revenue? What do you think on some of that stuff?
So, you know, what I keep thinking of here is this idea of like a steady cash flow and budgeting and understanding that, hey, business needs can change from one month to the next. And your expectations of what you're going to have from one month to the next can change if you're only going out there and doing single sale, give me all the money right now. So, you know, especially I would think for maybe newer VARs that are kind of, you know, just getting started, or maybe if you're expanding out into a new area and you're trying to get a feel for what kind of revenues do I expect to get. When you're doing a recurring model of some sort, it makes it so much easier to understand what's about to come around the corner at you. Yes, there are always going to be projects that'll pop up and new things that will happen that will shift one way or another. But if you're saying to yourself, hey, I've got these 4 projects that are all happening in Q1 and I expect the same thing in Q2, and you get all that money in Q1, and suddenly Q2 you have no projects, or they're all much smaller, simpler stuff, then all of your budgeting, all of your you know, your process for payroll, for, you know, assets, for, you know, leasing your building, whatever it is, what all this stuff that your accounting team has to account for and pay for, all those bills still come due the next month. Still there. You still got to pay your employees. You still got to pay your rent. You still got travel budgets or whatnot. You know, all that stuff's still going to be there, but suddenly you have nothing to leverage it against. And I know some people still, again, might think like, well, I got it up front. I can just move that over to the next quarter. But what if you made, you know, what if you went out and splurged on something in that first quarter because you suddenly had all this extra revenue coming, like, hey, this is the time now we can go out and hire 5 more people because we got these huge projects coming in. So we're going to hire these people in. And suddenly the next quarter, everything's a lot less. You have a lot fewer projects, and now you've got all this extra, you know, expenditures that you weren't quite ready for. So I think that's one place to think about this idea of a steady, ongoing cash flow that you can plan and budget and work
Very
around.
appealing. Very appealing. Back to those accountants. Very appealing to those folks.
It very much so, yes. Yeah, I mean, I've never done accounting, and I would never want to, but I have to think there's got to be something nice about being able to say, okay, I know that X amount of money is coming in next month. I mean, sure, somebody could cancel their subscription or whatever, or change things.
And you're going to learn that over time. Your business is going to say, oh, we've got a certain amount of attrition that goes on here, right?
Exactly.
5% of the people on a monthly basis bail out. So, yeah, they would work.
But ideally, you're filling that in with new customers anyway.
Exactly.
So it's something it's a very small window that's fluctuating potentially back and forth.
Right.
The other thing that occurs to me too, you mentioned this idea of you know, when a new, you know, as new products come along, you know, and as new technology changes, and it's so much simpler to go to your customers and say, hey, rather than throw out that, you know, $100,000 that you spent just 2 years ago because all this new stuff's coming out and we need another $100,000 from you to put all that in. What if you were saying, hey, that $100,000 that you're paying to us in a sense, you're paying it stretched out over time, and that means that as new products, as new technology comes out, we're going to come right in, we're going to take the old out, put the new in. You're still paying that same rate every month, and you don't have to think about the fact that you're basically bringing in something brand new and have to shell out a ton of money to get it each time. Or, to your point, sitting there and sitting on something for years and years and years longer when you should as innovation and technology.
Absolutely. Remember when we were talking to Terry Miller from what was then Last Mile, the Last Mile delivery? Yep. It's now owned by Descartes. But he brought up the use case of a customer of his that needed to enable the signature capturing ability right there at the delivery. And the use case was, well, under the SaaS model, that was so easy. Number one, they just turned it on, right? But then they just made the incremental adjustment to their monthly payment in order to make that happen, as opposed to the customer was also looking at alternatives of actually coding that in, and the massive capital expenditure it would have taken to write that code into that, which would have been cost prohibitive. I mean, it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it the one way, as opposed to a small increase in the monthly payment per device on the other way. So yes, right to your point, and that's kind of what we're saying here, that you can enable technology advancements much easier when it's in a recurring SaaS type of model than a CapEx. Walking back in the door, oh yeah, we can do that for you, but it's going to be $30,000 or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, yeah, exactly. we can't do that.
Yeah, that was something I was actually going to bring up too, is that idea again that, because we have talked to, Terry mentioned that. We've talked to a couple other folks that have brought up this idea of modular solutions. And especially on the software side, and this article is kind of written towards our software partners, but I think it's just as relevant for our partners, especially if you are working with software partners and going out and pitching these concepts for them. But the idea that, yes, you're providing someone with a solution that you're saying, hey, this solution is set up currently for your current needs, but we're just letting you know that down the road, if things change. And last year was a perfect example. Imagine being in retail or in restaurants, hospitality, some sort of, one of these industries last year that got affected hard by COVID when it happened and had to make a pivot, figuring out, okay, how do I go contactless? How do I do curbside? How do I do order online, pick up in store? How do I make all these shifts and changes to my business now that I can't have people actually coming in my store, or limited capacity, or people simply aren't showing up the way they used to?
Right.
Now imagine if that had happened to you and you were already working with a POS provider who said, hey, that stuff's already built into the system we gave you. We just had it turned off because you didn't need it before. We're going to turn it on. We're going to charge you, a few $100 extra a month now for those pieces to add that to your POS, and we're going to run forward from there.
Yep.
There's that. You want to talk about a way to generate loyalty and feel good about a company you're working with. Imagine when in times of crisis like that and something pops up and you need this, you're able to go to your VAR, go to your software partner, say, hey, we suddenly need this now. Things have changed, our market has changed, our business has changed. They say, oh, hey, that's already built into the platform we gave you.
Yep.
We're just going to turn it, hit a couple buttons, turn a couple keys, and we'll turn it on for you.
Boop. There we go.
How awesome would that be?
It is awesome.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, that's why moving towards a recurring revenue model in a SaaS model is so important for resellers to consider. And so there's two main themes there that I guess we could wrap up here or put in this part of the dialogue. Number one, selling repeatedly. So you've got a solution now in the sense once you start making the move towards the SaaS type of model, your solution selling, you've got something repeatable that you can now take to the marketplace, which is really nice. Yes, there's still value in what the reseller is doing, the VAR is doing by customizing that to the end user. Certainly, but you have repeatable things that you can start selling. And then finally, and this is the big one for me, it's customer retention. The phrase is stickiness. It adds customer stickiness. To your point where you were just going, John, when you have a customer that needs to modify their solution a little bit, well, they're already emboldened to you, or they're not emboldened to you. They're already connected to you by the fact that you have.
You're probably the first person they're going to.
Well, yeah. If you have a SaaS with them, if you have a solution that they're paying on a recurring revenue, or they're paying a SaaS to you, they're coming to you first and saying, "Hey, we need to do this," or whatever it is. So the customer stickiness is unbelievable with the recurring revenue type of model, and that's why a reseller should consider moving over there. Look, I've been in this situation where, as a reseller, we implemented a solution. It's awesome. They loved it. Good to go. The solution's doing what it needs to do, and the dust settles and everybody goes away. And then 2 years later, you learn that somebody else came in and provided some other service, and now that customer who was so loyal to you back then, 2 years ago when you implemented, has now moved on to somebody else. There's no stickiness there, right? There was no loyalty, no stickiness. So when you think about why would I want to move my reseller company to recurring revenue, stickiness. They can't move away from you. And so you're always at the table as far as trying to figure out the other solution. Yeah, I guess there's a doomsday scenario where they hate you so much that they're just going to go somewhere else and they're not even going to tell you and they're implementing. Okay, that still happens. But the reality is there's a lot of stickiness now to the solution, and they're going to have to come back to you, which is awesome. Because that's kind of what you want. You just want to be in the fold on when there's a need to modify a solution. So anyway, stickiness. Yeah. Let's put that on the table as a good reason to move over.
Yeah. And I think if we want to take this back a little bit and think about a practical everyday use that I think that everybody would understand is, I always think about streaming services. We all live in this world of streaming services where we're paying a monthly fee and we get access to Netflix, Prime, Hulu, whatever it is we're watching. Now, think of that instead and imagine, and granted, this is what the world was, prior to streaming services, where every time you wanted to watch a show or a movie, they said, all right, we need, $40 for that, or I need $20 for that film. I need $100 for you to watch this series. You would probably be a lot less inclined to do it. You wouldn't feel as good about it. But instead, now we live in this world where we've got this service, and now every time they add something to that service, you still get the benefit of that. You get to use that, you get the benefit of it. And it works the same way in this context. Let's say that, if you're a software provider and, hey, there's a new update or a patch or some kind of, new feature or something, it's quite possible you can just upload that and just inform your customers about it and say, hey, new feature available today. Now you can scan this new type of barcode or something, it's already included. You don't need to do anything. If you don't want it, you can turn it off. Or if you do need to turn it on or something, here's how to do it. Nothing else needs to be done. It's something you can easily push that update right over to them. And that's, again, that kind of thing where people are just, awesome. I don't have to think about this. I knew this was coming. It's already here. I don't have to think that hard about it. I don't have to put in any extra effort or go talk to somebody, have some, lengthy process to get this, funded or financed or whatever. And that's the other part too, is I think that when you're talking about these recurring revenue schemes and the idea that, and I say scheme in the sense of, the way you're scheming together, like not the
hustling.
Exactly.
Hey, I got a scheme here, buddy.
Right. I have a feeling it's probably a much easier lift for executives, for accounting, for whoever has to sign off on this stuff to be able to go to them and say, hey, we're currently paying X in monthly revenue. They're just asking us to pay this now in order to add in all this stuff.
Here are the benefits.
I have a feeling most people would go like, okay, that's fine. That's easy enough. That's, that's going to add a little bit extra on, but hey,
100%.
That's monthly, no big deal. Versus having to go to somebody and say, hey, we need to finance this new project. It's going to cost us $150,000. That suddenly everything grinds to a halt. A bunch of people got to get together and talk this out. All kinds of maybe RFIs and RFQs have to go out everywhere. It's an entirely different process. I think that will be made so much easier for your customers and so much easier for you to get them on board a little bit faster.
Absolutely. And so that's the pivot. That's the mental pivot that I think that a reseller, if you're not living in this SaaS world, I mean, that's what a solution as a service, subscription as a service world is. It's mentally thinking about it a little bit differently, that, that the solutions there are a little bit more flexible in what they can do. There's advantages on the financial side. There's advantages to you on the financial side, and then the fact that you've now got a stream of revenue coming in. It is a little bit different. We'll talk a little bit later, because I know some of the resellers are out there as well. Dude, I've got my whole business built on CapEx and how I'm compensating my sales team and stuff like that. We got an answer for you, by the way. Just you got to stay tuned until the end of the podcast, and we can help you out there. But the simple fact of the matter is that really you got to kind of pivot your thinking a little bit. And the note I made here, John, is that to me, you know, when you think about SaaS, you really have to start thinking. If you're a reseller today, you have to start thinking and talking like a software company or somebody else out there that's already in the SaaS business, and start thinking about your business in that way. And I'm going to throw a couple acronyms out here on the ways that software companies think about their business and how they look at it that is completely different than a reseller.
Right.
Some of the terms would be such things like this: customer acquisition cost, or CAC. A reseller is probably like, what? You know, what is a customer acquisition cost? Well, software companies will look at it and say, how much is it costing us to acquire X customer? And are we going to make how long is it going to take us to make our money back on that?
Right.
You have to think that way. That's a different way of thinking than a reseller that going in there and saying, oh, this solution's going to cost me 10 grand. I want to make 20% on it, so it's going to cost them 12 grand.
Yep.
You know, that's pretty easy math. And it doesn't take a lot to, you don't even have to consider, well, maybe you're considering a little bit of the customer acquisition cost, like I got my sales team or commissioning them, and there's this whole marketing budget over there. But truly, you look at it differently. So there's a customer acquisition cost. There's things like customer lifetime value, the CLV. What is the customer lifetime value? Meaning you start looking at your business completely differently. If they're paying you monthly for a solution, right? Now you're seeing that revenue stream come in. That's a different optic than my OpEx. So you can build a business exactly where you're going on. Your accounting team's going to look at it differently. Oh, we've got these secured revenues coming in for the next however many years, you know, based on the contracts that have written. It's a different way of looking at that as well.
And it makes your business very future and forward thinking, which, you know, this is one of those places where, you know, there's a differentiation between like our VARs and resellers that we work with, or I'm sorry, VARs and software companies. A lot of times when we work with software companies, we talk to them and you can tell that they are kind of in that startup mentality and they hold on to that for a very long time. And a lot of that is built around this idea of, we know where we want to get in the future, whether it's getting to an IPO, whether it's, you know, expanding out to, you know, an international market, whatever that is, there's usually a goal that these entrepreneurs have in mind that they're trying to reach.
Yeah.
So their entire business is built around this idea of, how do I get to that goal? Well, I think if you adopt this kind of model, if you start adopting a SaaS model and chasing this recurring revenue and making that part of your business, it makes it easier for your business to do the same thing and to think to yourself, hey, I want to, in the future, be able to do this. So it makes it a lot easier when you know, all right, this is what I'm getting every month out of recurring revenue for X amount of customers. If we increase our base to, you know, twice, or, you know, maybe 50% of our base increase, you know, on top of this with the same recurring revenue, that's going to get us to this point where then we can shift our business and do this. We can add these extra people. We can break into this different industry. We can open up a new office building, whatever it is. It's so much easier to start predicting the future at that point when you have that understanding about, hey, I know, all things considered, how much money this company is going to be making in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, assuming we stick to this model and and grow our customer base along the way. That looks good. I mean, think about how good that looks, again, to your executives and to your partners when you can sit down, if you've got financiers or whatever, and you can sit down and explain to them, hey, here's our plan, and this is how we're going to get there. And we know we're going to get there because we've built this model that lets us do that.
100%. And we also know that with partners that we've worked in the marketplace, you know, obviously at BlueStar, we've got a lot of customers that are retiring. We do have some customers that have been very innovative, been on the recurring revenue SaaS model, if you will, years beforehand. And here's the good news that, you know, one of the optics might be eventually, if you own the company, eventually you're probably going to want to sell the company, right? Unless you're going to work until you die kind of a thing. If your optics are to retire someday, you want to sell the company. Completely different business when you go to the marketplace saying, oh, well, I have a company that did $1 million in revenue, and you're sitting across the table from a buyer and you say, well, I did $1 million last year. Here's my pipeline. Here's what I think is going to come in. You know, now there's, well, do I believe them or not? That's a different conversation than saying, oh, by the way, here's the company now under a SaaS model or a recurring revenue model. Oh, here's the $1 million I did last year, and here are the contracts that are going to, in essence, guarantee it for the next X amount of years. It's a different optic. You know, it's just a completely different optic when you're going to sell your company. So anyway, I think your point is really valid. I mean, it just changes the way the thinking needs to occur. on the front of the reseller. They're just typically not wired to think that way, right? They're not wired to think about it on the upfront. They're not thinking about it the long term, but there's so many benefits, as we've illustrated here, to doing that. Now,
and I just interrupt you for a second. I would think also that from the perspective of someone in sales, because I think back in my time in sales, and one of always the biggest things hanging over your head was in sales was meeting your next years or quarters or whatever's quota.
Yeah.
And it was always a target that was built on, here's what I did last year, I got to do X% over last
10%
year.
more.
Right.
We need 20% more out of you, John.
And we all know that at some point that you can't do that. At some point you can't keep growing.
But I gave my 20% last year.
I know. Unless you're always raising your prices or something and everyone is going to buy regardless of how much you keep raising your prices, you know that's hard to do. You know, you're gonna lose people, things are gonna change. And I think again that's another example of where this last year may have taught us a lot about that, where unpredictable things can occur that can damage your business. You know, nobody last year who had a sales goal that was 20% higher than the year before probably made that. You know, because things changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah, unless you sell, I don't know, COVID instant kits or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I would think then that for your sales team, it's a much nicer thing to be able to go to them and say, hey, instead of saying you have to get X amount of percentage in dollars more than you did last year, what if it's, hey, I'm asking you to grow your customer base this year. I'd like you to get 10, 20 new customers on our recurring revenue platform this year. I feel like there's a different ask, or expand the subscription for 10 customers this year, whatever it is, rather than just an arbitrary, here's a dollar amount you have to now get to. Good luck. I mean, to me, it feels like it'd be an easier lift.
Now, I'm going to connect the dot to other previous conversations that we had. So clearly, people need to be listening to this podcast because we tie the, we're connecting the dots on conversations we've had.
It's like one of those boards they have like on a crime show.
100%. Yes.
The strings to it everywhere. Yeah.
We are NCIS or whatever it is. Yes. So, okay. So we've talked about how companies are transforming their sales departments, and this is the perfect opportunity. If you start pivoting towards SaaS and recurring revenue, you need to consider changing the way that your sales team is oriented as well. And what I mean by that, we have talked about, there's a trend in the marketplace right now that salespeople truly should only be compensated and have the optics of going after new business. If it's existing business, that's a customer service representative, right? So if you have a sales team that is just managing your current customers, they're not sales. I hate to tell you that. They're customer service reps that you are commissioning on selling whatever, the selling that they do. So the way that the marketplace is moving is now considering customer service reps to being those that manage existing business. And sales is truly the ones that are out there beating the bushes trying to find new business, and they're compensated accordingly. Like if you find me 10 new customers, good. We're going to compensate you on those 10 new customers, and then next year go out and you got to find new ones. Forget about the 10 that you just found because they're now going to be managed under customer service. The reason that's so important to me, John, is that I also think about the optics of how software companies, their business is fundamentally different. The way they approach it is fundamentally different as well for anybody that's in the SaaS service. And one big way is what I'll determine is the customer onboarding. So when they bring on a new customer, there's a whole activity that's around customer onboarding. The use case I'll give you is HubSpot. We use HubSpot at BlueStar. It's a CRM, but it's also an e-marketing tool. And it's a SaaS. So the company's just software, basically, right? But they've got a whole team that is around onboarding. Why? Because they want you to understand the tool that you just bought into very, very well, so that your team is now very educated on how to use the tool, so that as you go about your business and implementing it, the end user, in this case it would be BlueStar, knows the tool, they understand the tool, they're utilizing the tool. That's huge on recurring revenue. So if you're a reseller that's pivoting, my message to you is you have to be sensitive to the customer onboarding and put a little bit more resources behind that you might not have done in the past, right? In the past, when you're doing CapEx, you got the solution, you install the solution, You're done. You're wiping your hands. You know, it's like the dealer.
Let me know when you need something else.
Let me know when you need something else.
Yeah.
When you have a recurring revenue model, you can't do that.
Right.
You have to be sensitive. You have to be tapped into how the customer is doing. So your customer onboarding, it starts with the customer onboarding, but also just, you know, the overall customer experience. Your optics have to shift a little bit to that. So again, connecting the dots back totally makes sense to me now that a lot of companies are pivoting to customer service reps because that's what it's all about. You know, servicing the account, not trying to sell them. How you doing on this? Is everything going okay? Checking in with them on some regular interval.
Right.
Hey, everything's still going okay. Because you want them to, when that re-up comes 2 years, 3 years down the road, you just want them hitting the accept button. You know, just not even thinking about, why would I even think about pivoting off of HubSpot, you know, to go back to my example. We're not going to pivot off of that because we know how to use it. We're good. We're good.
We're very embedded in it at this point.
We're very embedded in it. We got it.
And to your point, you know, I'll get frequent emails from them. You know, hey, here's new features we're offering this month. Hey, here's a new way you can do this. Hey, here's a video you can watch about how to do this. Hey, just checking in. Do you need anything? You know, let us know how we're doing type stuff. You're right. There's always those touch points that are going on. And to your point, I guarantee that's someone who's a service rep that is focused on us as a pre-existing customer, and they've got other people that are out there trying to, you know, to wrangle in and bring in new folks along the way. It's a very good point. It's, you know, it's because I think the bottom line there is it is very hard to ask anybody in sales to do both of those things well at once.
It is.
It's so hard.
And think about what you're asking that person to do. Right. I mean, you know, they're going to, we know the drill. You and I have both been in sales.
Exactly.
People gravitate to what they're comfortable with. Some people are bulldogs and they're out there just, and that's what they do. And great. And they're just wired that way. They just, give me the next deal, give me the next deal, give me the next deal. If that's one type of mentality. But if you're tasking that same person with now nurturing and making sure your customers are doing well, bulldogs aren't usually pretty good at making sure that the customer is doing well. It's just a different mentality. So when you're asking your sales team to be a nurturer plus a bulldog, kind of an issue. So that's why I think you're starting to see this change in the marketplace towards customer service. And I totally get why software companies and recurring revenue companies do that. Resellers need to start thinking in that way. They need to pivot their mindset on and changing their business model a little bit to accommodate for that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Well, let's kind of, you know, change gears a little bit here and talk about some other sources of recurring revenue.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we think about a lot of this basic stuff of, hey, I've got a software that's got a subscription element to it, or, you know, a piece of hardware I'm selling you that I'm basically just going to charge you, you know, incremental amounts in order to just keep upgrading you as need be or whatever, fixing it as need be, whatever, all of that. But there are other ways you can earn some recurring revenue. And we don't need to dive too far into these, but we can kind of explain a little bit about some of these. Payment processing. Everything is all about taking payments these days. And you're seeing more and more places that are finding unique ways to collect payments, whether it is, you know, being able to pay somebody online, whether it is using contactless payments. You know, there's so many different avenues of payments these days. It's not just simple transactions anymore. So getting in on that payment processing aspect and being able to offer up, you know, have a connection with someone in the processing world that you can offer them up and say, hey, I'm working with XYZ over here. They're going to come in and take care of the processing side of this for you and make that part simple and easy. It's not some third party that you have to get involved with. Again, that's something you can add into a recurring fee for you there. Complementary solutions that, you know, go alongside of whatever you're already selling them. So do you need to offer guest Wi-Fi? So if I'm setting up a network for you, do you need to be able to offer guest Wi-Fi? What was some of these other ones here? PCI compliance, backup and disaster recovery. You know, the stuff that people are going to need, you know, as they're, you know, operating their business. And again, normally it's something they may have thought to go third party to do. But what if you can do that through you instead?
I love this one. I think we need to drill in a little bit on complementary services, because when you think about it, and I guess it's because I have some experience here as well. And this is how we began to pivot our company into the recurring revenue SaaS model, was through complementary services. So if you're a reseller today, you got your comfort world, you know it, you know, you install POS systems, and it's your world, or if you're a ADC reseller, you know, you're installing the solution. What are some complementary services that you can add on there that would come at a monthly basis? Yeah, is it Wi-Fi? Is it security? Is it those types of things? There are solutions out there that if you added them onto your tech stack, you know, you could now start billing for those and take incremental steps towards recurring revenue. What we did in the past, my experience is we were digital signage. signage. So we hung digital signage, right? But the recurring revenue, what we started going to the marketplace with back in the day was managed services. Hey, we can help you with the content. We can help you with managing your screens. You know, if you're looking for somebody, we can be your network operations center, your NOC, and there's just a small fee for that or whatever. So there are ways that you can start dipping your toe and getting into those worlds through complementary solutions. I love it.
And again, you're eliminating a frustration point for your customers, where, because we've all had this happen at some point in our lives, you buy something from somewhere and something goes wrong, but the place you bought it from, the store, online retailer, whatever, is not the person who wants to service or help out with it.
Right.
They tell you, like, no, don't talk to us. Go over to this website, call this number, and talk to these people about it. Like, okay, well, then why didn't I just buy it from them to begin with? So, yeah, you don't want to be that person. You want to be the person they say, hey, if you have any problems, you're coming to us.
Yep.
Granted, you may have to go, reach out to those original manufacturers.
Sure, but you're managing it for them.
Right.
Yeah.
You're taking care of that for them. You are one point of contact that they know they can reach out to you for any problems that they have.
There's that stickiness again. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the customer that sticks with you.
That's a great way of getting into there. Yeah, but there's some other ways too.
Yeah, value add services. Obviously, this is the value add industry.
Right?
If you're a VAR, you
got value added
in your
services.
name. You've got value added services. Things like marketing, offering, online ordering, loyalty programs, whatever kind of service you have, configuration. Getting everything ready to roll out, kit boxing, whatever kind of cool services you might offer. All part of that can be that recurring revenue. Say, hey, we're going to add in, we're going to help you out with some marketing. We've got some great marketing platforms that we can, launch on your behalf. So give us an extra $5 a month and we'll run a marketing program.
And I'm going to give you one small way that a reseller can go in that direction, because, I've been in environments where that's a little bit of a challenge. How do we know our value added services, but how can we add those on, or how do we know in the marketplace what might be a good one that we could do on a recurring basis? We would make it a point to take a step back, because here's what resellers do. Resellers, they've got multiple customers out there, and they've got this solution, they do this setup, and everything's good to go. They move on to the next one. You know what? This next person needs something that's pretty similar to what I just did over here, but they need it tweaked in another way. So they're endlessly tweaking solutions, right? It's a little bit of this or a little bit of that. We would take a step back and say, hey, let's look at what we did last year and all the solutions that we implemented. And every single one of them had a 20% differentiator behind it. A little bit different over here, a little bit different over there. Then we take a look at it and say, is there anything marketable here? Or is there anything that we could, now that we've built it once, the old Oracle model or the Razor model, whatever you want to say, now that we've built it once, can we offer that to others? First off, these other customers that bought something similar to us, and or out into the marketplace. What is the little thing here that we could do? And then we would focus in on those one or two things. Maybe it's just one or two services, additional services that we did last year as a nicety to customer XYZ or whatnot, that now we're going to try to parlay that into actually a little bit of our business moving forward. And that's a great way to do it. So you've got value adds. I know every single reseller out there is doing little additional value adds along the way. Which ones of those can you blow up and make meaningful revenue to?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely something to be able to say for that. When you can go to somebody and say, hey, we've got 50 customers all doing the same thing. 25 of them we've done this with, and it's been very successful. You other 25, you want on board, right? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Security services, we already talked about that. Again, a growing need, especially, we actually just had a conversation with Jeff Smith about government a couple weeks back, where we talked about, cloud security and cloud computing and how important that's becoming in the government space. But obviously, there's a huge security element to that. And even if you're not playing in government, anybody who's playing in the cloud wants to know that whatever they're doing there is secure. If you're storing customer information, if you're processing transactions, you want to know that stuff's secure. That's services that you can potentially offer up as well. And then on-demand services as well. So, if I don't know too many details about what that might include, but, it could be adding in actually, I guess that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, this idea of, hey, things have changed in our business and we need to pivot.
Yep.
And now we have an extra service that we want to add in, and we're going to include that on demand for you. Maybe it's already built in, or it's something you can quickly and easily add in and add a little bit of an extra fee on there too.
And I guarantee
no reason not to do that.
Absolutely. It's happening. I guarantee you, if resellers just pivot their thinking a little bit on that front and how they can now capitalize on some of those things that they've been doing in with other customers, it really opens up the world to
Definitely.
that.
Dean, anything else you had before we get into our recurring segments?
No, I think we've got, again, I think that you really need to start thinking resellers, there's benefits out there, right? There's benefits to moving towards a recurring revenue SaaS model. We've illustrated them, the stickiness, the ability to resell, those types of things. It's the right solution selling. It's where the world is moving to. So just consider that. But you also have to, saying yes to that is one thing, but pivoting your business and also reacting to it through customer service and some of those things, you need to take a different optic and really kind of change your way of thinking. So,
Agreed.
All good.
Well, as I mentioned, this was an article from our TEConnect Today newsletter. It's our new newsletter. I will put a link in the show notes where you can go sign up, but you can also go to BlueStarInc.com, look for newsletters, sign up there. Highly recommend you get on this. We have great content coming down the pipeline. We'll occasionally grab some, talk about it here, but you're missing out on a bunch of other good stuff if you're not reading the newsletter as well. So. And hey, as always, we want to thank our sponsors, Elo, Epson, Honeywell, and Zebra. We very much appreciate your support for our show. Could not do this without you. And hey, as always, if you want to reach out to us, if you have some thoughts about recurring revenue, have some questions, you can email us at TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. You can also find us on Twitter at TECConnectPod. All right, let's wrap up with our recurring segments about recurring revenue. See what we did there? Synergy. That's marketing synergy, folks. Let's start with our value to the VAR. This is where we kind of wrap up our conversation with, particularly to our VAR audience.
Yeah.
And in this one, let's toot our own horn a little bit here, because BlueStar is, again, we understand what is happening here. We understand this shift to the SaaS model. To recurring revenue, and we want to help our partners get there. So
100%.
Let's talk a little bit about BlueStar's hybrid SaaS program and any other programs that we have out there to help facilitate this recurring revenue. Dean, I know you're an expert on this, so explain a little bit more about what we do.
Well, in all seriousness, this is a serious topic, because I know it's hard for resellers to, I want to make that move, guys, but here's the world that I live in today. How am I going to change it? And primarily that comes down to, how do I compensate my sales reps for the work that they do, number one, and what are the mechanisms that I could do to finance these end user monthly payments? It's really difficult to do. And so we came to the marketplace with what we call hybrid SaaS, and this is, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast, and this is the tool that you can utilize, any reseller can utilize to help make a move in that direction. And here's why we called it a hybrid SaaS, is that with a hybrid SaaS, it's a financing tool that you can now take to market, and it has a couple benefits. Number one, you can now compete on the monthly end user costs. So you can walk in the door with a solution, a total solution. That solution can include the hardware, the software, the services that you're putting in, all of that bundled into the cost, and you can offer the end user a monthly payment over time, 2-3 years. It doesn't matter the industry. This can be in POS. This can be, hospitality retail. This can be any reseller out there that's doing ADC, RFID, digital signage. Doesn't matter. This hybrid SaaS solution works. So your end user now is paying a monthly payment. So it's a financing tool to help enable that, number one. So now you can compete. You can compete with anybody else that's walking in the door and saying, I can provide that same solution, but it's only $500 a month as opposed to $20,000 up front. So we've got that tackled through hybrid SaaS. Number two, it helps you on your compensation side. And here's how. The tool will finance the deal, but as the reseller, you have the levers in the background to pull. Do you want to get compensated for yourself on that deal all up front, or do you want that to occur over time? So we've worked with financial partner that will enable that, meaning if you have a sales team that you're still commissioning on a basic sale. So now, just to frame this out, it's a solution. The solution is being paid $500 a month by the end user. How the heck am I going to compensate my sales rep on that $500? Through HybridSaaS, you as the reseller are getting paid upfront for the entire solution. So let's say it was that $10,000 solution. You're getting the 10 grand upfront. You can still commission your rep and still work in the world that you are, but you've offered that end user a monthly payment. Or you can dial it back a little bit. Let's say you start transitioning your sales team to getting commissioned a little bit on monthly basis. You could take 50% of the money up front and then table 50% of the dollars to come in over time. That way, as you start changing your compensation for your sales team, because it's not fair to just go cut the cord and say, well, yesterday you were getting commissioned on CapEx, tomorrow you're getting commissioned on all this OpEx, and yeah, you're not going to make as much money because it's going to take you a year's time to get up to that. You can wean people a little bit. You can offer them, 50% now and a little bit coming over time. So the hybrid SaaS solution that we have offers all kinds of flexibility on that down that path. So it's really critical for resellers to just get in touch with us. Let us show you how you can use this financial tool to start bridging the gap between how I start pivoting my sales team on their compensation, and oh, by the way, you can now start competing in the world with a monthly payment as well. It's really a great program, but that's the whole design, is to help people make that transition over.
Hard agree. I mean, basically, the idea here is, hey, we just told you all about why you want to implement a SaaS, a solution as a service program of some sort, to help meet your customers' needs and how they want to be able to do business and purchase and finance and understand, what they can and can't afford. We want to do the same thing for you.
Yep.
That's the bottom line of it. Yep. We want to make that so if for some reason your particular model and your needs don't necessarily align with your customer needs, you can both have what you want in at one time.
Yeah. So the goal is absolutely, John, and let's keep in mind the goal here is for a reseller to become that solution seller. Let's say it's 5 years down the road. Their goal is to become a complete SaaS model, recurring. They don't even offer CapEx solutions anymore. They're completely, everything that they do is monthly based, but it's going to take a little while to get there. You need a bridge.
It's hard to pivot that overnight.
You need a bridge to get there. That's what hybrid SaaS will do. So that's one of the services that, if you ask me, that we're bringing to the table to help resellers do that. The other one, and we've talked a lot about this, when you're a solution seller, you need a tech stack. We keep referring to that, and what we mean by that is when you go to the marketplace with solutions, you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't just walk in the door and say, "Oh, the only thing I do is point of sale. This is it. This is the little part of the overall solution. This is all I do." If you're going to survive in another 5 years, you need to have more solutions. You need to have a tech stack. That's why, by the way, hint, hint, we created the whole TEConnect program. We have a program where we have embraced software development companies in the marketplace. We are kind of helping our resellers in vetting who those people are. So if you have a need out there, you can either contact us and have us query our TEConnect database, but you don't even need to get that sophisticated. What you need to do, though, is you need to get out in the marketplace and figure out what your tech stack is going to be. We can help you. We've got the TEConnect program that can help get you down that path if you're looking for somebody who can help you on the Wi-Fi. Let's say you wanted to do those complementary services, right, that you're going to add on, and you need security. Well, we got people that can help you there. We got folks like WatchGuard and stuff like that that can start getting you down that path of enabling you to, yes, get into recurring revenue, number one, and B, offer a new solution and add to your tech stack along the way. So I don't know, just off the top of my head, those are two. I think you got hybrid SaaS and the financing that we're helping people out. You need additional partners and add to your tech stack. We got that through our TEConnect program.
It's exactly the same things I was thinking.
I took the words right out of your mouth.
I knew you would. It's one of those things. I'm like, I'm just going to pitch this to Dean because he's going to be able to say it better than I ever could. Yeah. But yeah, the bottom line here is that, we don't spend usually a lot of time in this podcast talking about ourselves and what we can do. But this is an example of a time where, hey, we're out there to offer up help and services. We're not successful if our customers aren't successful. And this kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that's going to help you be successful and to go to business and to go to market the way you want to. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be helping you do that also. So I will put some links again in the show notes for all this stuff where you can find all of our additional services, our financial services. Definitely check out the Hybrid SaaS page. There's a great video that you and Mark Fraker shot together explaining the program and how it works, a little bit more detail. And of course, if you're interested in any of this, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to talk to you about it. Again, your success is ours, so we want to help work with you on this.
100%.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap up with our favorite segment of this week and every week, which is our What's Tech Connecting with Us? Whatever piece of cool tech, innovation, science, story, whatever's caught our attention. So, Dean, what's Tech Connecting with you this week?
Non-fungible tokens.
Oh, God.
Do you know what a non-fungible token is?
I went down the rabbit hole of this. People spending millions of dollars to buy
tens of millions.
A pixelated image or whatever.
Dude, what the heck is a non-fungible token?
Something very, very rich people are playing with right now, clearly.
2 weeks ago, I had no idea what an NFT was.
Yep.
You know, I just oblivious to what a non-fungible token was. Wake up to alarmed at that somebody named Beeple just got $65 million for a non-fungible token. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I am in the wrong business. Whatever I'm doing is not right because somebody just paid somebody for the unique token. You know, I get it. Okay, so what is a non-fungible token? It's like a it's something that can't be duplicated, right? They use blockchain technology. If you create an asset and you associate
it's not a physical
object, it's not a physical object, but you can associate a digital asset tag to it, in essence, through a non-fungible token. Well, now you can prove that it's unique. Yeah. So it's the whole economic law of scarcity. There's only one of this, whatever it is. But to my alarm, there's already all kinds of players in here. NBA is creating NFT videos with LeBron James that unique, and this is the only one of this thing, even though it can be duplicated endless amounts of time. Right, that's okay.
But you have the original.
You have the original, and the original is so. Do you know about Beeple? Do you know about this guy?
I remember reading that story.
Marco knows about Beeple.
I've never heard of Beeple before.
I didn't know about this guy either, but he creates artwork, right? Digital artwork. His whole gig is on Instagram. I think he posts a GIF no, it's not a GIF. It's an image that he creates using 8-bit or whatever. It's not like it's anyway. And he creates one image a day and loads it up. So he's got like a library of 5,000 of them. Right. And it's that 5,000 library that just garnered him $65 million because they put an NFT behind it. So there you go, John. Have you only been creating these little digital images, right? And they're silly. They're goofy. And we don't even want to get into some of them because they're it's stuff we can't talk about.
Well, this reminded me of, do you remember a few years back, it was found out that the Wu-Tang Clan had created an entirely new album. But the only person that had it was that Martin Shkreli dude, that pharma bro guy who got in all the trouble for like jacking up the cost of EpiPens.
Oh, yeah.
And he somehow had come into possession or bought or owned the entire new Wu-Tang Clan album and had it for himself and was not going to release it where anybody else could listen to this. That is, I guess, is the same concept of this. And then granted, you know, some of these people that will get this may release copies or, versions of it, I guess, out there. But yeah, this is one of those things where it kind of blows my mind a little bit. Like I get the concept, but I also go, the only people that care about this kind of stuff is someone who's just got income to just throw away on
because the 65 million came through a Christie's auction. Right. So if you're going to a Christie's auction, you've got money. Dude, I'm not sitting there. I don't have the little pallet that I'm waving. Yeah, I'm bidding. I'm bidding.
$40?
40.
Did you say 40,000, sir? No, 40. No.
Yeah. So we're maybe not in this ecosystem, but what was revolutionary or what's so disruptive about this is that the fact that Christie's did auction it off. And by the way, I think that the whole thing started at, was it $1 or $100? It was one of the two. The NFT for Beeple started at like $100. Wow. And it got to 65 million. So that legitimizes this whole thing. I wouldn't have thought anything about this except for the whole art world. The whole art world. Yeah. Just justified non-fungible tokens.
Now you have to understand cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens. Good luck, everybody.
There you go. Yeah, good luck with that. Or else you're not in the art collection business at all. So to your point, I guess it is just a bunch of people that got way too much money thinking that they've outdone themselves here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I can find a way to non-fungible token something and get a bunch of millions of dollars out of it, I will. But I doubt I have anything that's that useful.
We're going to create NFTs of Marco. just little videos. We're gonna create our own NFTs, and then we'll just market them and see if we get $1. What?
That's true.
If we get $1 of Bitcoin today, I mean, the way that it's been growing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Shit,
that's
well, I have $100 and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all right.
anyway.
Well.
What's TEConnecting with you, John?
So for me, for some reason, I feel like I always end up in the car space a lot of times about what's going on in the world of cars. So Hyundai's new electric car has a solar panel roof and can charge other EVs. This is the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is, I believe, scheduled to roll out this spring, actually. So it's an electric vehicle, but it has solar panels on the roof. And the idea with the solar panels is that it'll give you a little bit extra boost, to your battery every day. Like I think this was like a British article, I think. So it said something like 2,000 kilometers extra over the course of a year. So it said something like maybe like 5 or 6 kilometers a day or something, extra that you can potentially, get out of your battery life for that day by having the solar panels. And that's assuming you're driving around in a place that gets a lot of regular sunlight.
Right.
If you're in Seattle, sorry, this thing's probably kind of useless to you. But I thought the other interesting part of it was this idea that you could potentially help charge other EVs as well. So it says once the Ioniq 5's battery depletes to 15%, it will automatically stop charging. Oh, so it says if the battery level is above 15%, you can plug the new Hyundai into another electric car to charge it.
Very nice.
And there's something cool about that. But at the same time, I'm also like, man, I don't want to be that guy in the neighborhood,
right,
who has the car that can charge other people's cars.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I?
Hey, I need a charge. Can I plug into your car? Like, yeah, it's open the garage.
No,
for
even
it,
worse. Like you just pull into the parking lot. You're trying to go to Walmart or whatever and get your stuff done, and then you have that awkward. Hey, you can see him out of the corner of your eye walking up, and he's gonna ask if he can hop a charge off of your car.
Usually, it's that guy coming to you and asking for some gas money or something, or. But no, it's gonna be somebody in a fine suit or whatever coming to you.
Right.
They've got their electric vehicle. Like, hello, I see you have the new Ioniq. May I charge a little bit off of you? Like, buddy, I just want to go, buy a hose.
So maybe that's one of those good ideas that in practice might be a little not what they expected.
I guess, if you're someone who likes to meet new people, maybe that's something for you. That could be a selling point for the car,
I guess. I don't know. You see it in cell phones. Doesn't Samsung have a commercial out where you can share your energy with those around you? So I think they're just kind of
that's a good point.
Adding on to that.
I guess I'm a little too misanthropic for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
No, get away.
Get away.
No, my car, my energy.
I'm not sharing anything with you.
No, but it is a cool idea. And I mean, it's something that, again, could help revolutionize vehicles in the future that, if we're all driving electric vehicles and it's, you've got some distance to go before you can get to another charging station, imagine just
we all
plug into somebody else's real quick and getting a little boost there.
Well, we're all going to be driving. I'm going to be driving an electric vehicle here soon.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so that's what's TEConnecting with us. Thank you so much for watching it all. As always, it is time for us to unplug today. So, again, recurring revenue, name of the game. If you're not doing it already, you need to be doing it. So until next time, stay connected. Trying to help your customers open or reopen safely with social distancing and infection control protocols? Elo offers touchscreen solutions to help with employee access, guest check-in, self-service, and much more. Their modular platforms increase safety, eliminate paper-based processes, and reduce the cost of visitor management. Elo also provides thorough cleaning and disinfecting guidelines. To learn more, visit Elo's microsite on BlueStarInc.com or contact your Elo representative. Delivering high-quality patient care starts by connecting data from admissions to discharge and every step in between. Zebra's patient identity management solutions enable precision when matching patient records, medication, specimens, and more, so the right patient gets the right care every time. Built from a connected ecosystem of scanners, printers, and supplies to help ensure treatments and medications are accurately administered, Zebra's patient identity solutions give clinicians the performance edge they need to deliver safe and accurate care. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Zebra team.